Tony Harnell, I was a bit surprised. It was a pleasant surprise to see you front a new band, Starbreaker. And again, you are collaborating with a Scandinavian guitar player. How did this new band or project start in the first place?
Well, it was supposed to be sort of one of these, one-off projects, and Frontiers is kind of known for these. And the reason for that is that he wanted to sign me for a solo deal or, something that I was doing. And I had never worked with the label before, so I was a little bit hesitant. So they suggested that we do a one-off project to just sort of see how the label works and all that. And so I agreed to that, and we started talking about the music, and we really weren't seeing eye to eye at all. So the project almost died. And then he finally came back to me and he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, it's got to be heavy, and it's got to, it's really got to be big and heavy, and it can't be something that's going to be so different from what people know me for that it's going to turn them completely off. So I did want it to be completely different. I wanted it to be different from TNT, but I didn't want it to be totally, another story, So I think that from that point, he hooked me up with Serafino at Frontiers Records, hooked me up with Fabrizio Grossi in California, who ended up producing the album. We had a nice conversation. We talked about the music that I wanted to do, and he suggested Magnus Karlsson as the guitar player. And I hadn't really heard of Magnus, but I went and listened to a couple of things that he had done, and I thought he was great. And a couple weeks later, I started getting MP3s in my mailbox, and the project was off and running. And I think, at that point, as I was writing the material to his music, I started feeling like something interesting was happening, because I knew that I could sort of take what he was doing and take it someplace. And Fabrizio had an idea in his mind of how to produce it and make it really heavy, and so it started really coming together. And then, of course, when we brought John Macaluso in to play the drums, it really blossomed from there.
Why didn't you just call this Tony Harnell instead of Starbreaker?
Because it's not a solo album. Because the thing is, when you collaborate with somebody with music, you have to understand the music for this project came first from Magnus, and then I, talked to him about what I wanted, but it really did come from him, and then I wrote my lyrics and melodies to sort of his music. So it really is not a solo album, and if I were to do a solo album, it would not sound like this, because I'm collaborating on this, so you understand.
Yeah. When you're writing material for TNT, I know you travel a lot back and forth between America and Norway.
Yeah.
Am I right about that? You haven't been writing together in the same place at all? You've just been sending files back and forth?
That's right, yeah. We didn't even meet until we got together to shoot the video and the photos for the cover. We hadn't even met each other at all. We only exchanged emails, and that was it. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, what's amazing about it really is that if you think about the technology today between the internet and the MP3s and being able to do this, the album sounds fantastic. And the thing is, you would never be able to do that 10, 15 years ago. You had to be in the same place. So nowadays, you're able to actually record a world-class album for a lot cheaper than you used to, and not even be in the same country.
Sure. Do you think the music would have sounded differently if you rehearsed together in the same place instead of sending the data files back and forth?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think that I look at this album and I say this is a great debut album. It was supposed to be a one-off project, and when we were finished, we were so happy with it that it's now, we're all calling it a band, and we're going to definitely do some touring, and we're looking to follow it up with another album and all that. But I think that if you look at it from the musical standpoint, definitely if Magnus and I were writing the songs in the same room, there would have been a lot more of my influence in the music early on. There would have been things that I would have changed, maybe with the way that he was presenting the music or playing his guitar, different things like that. Even though I think he's fantastic, it's just I would have had more input, like I do with TNT when I'm sitting in a room with Ronnie. But having said that, I think we did a pretty darn good job.
Yeah, sure. Do you feel that you use your voice in a different way? Of course, the music is different, but do you sing in a different way as well in this band?
Yeah, I think I sing appropriately to the songs, and that's kind of what I always do. I've sung hard and raw like this with TNT, but not maybe on a whole album. I've done it on a couple of tracks here and there, like on the last album. I think I sang pretty hard on My Religion, and in previous albums I've experimented with that heavier sound in my voice. I just do it more on this album. And I think like I said, I always try to just sing appropriately for what the song wants me to do.
Do you think you will work like this in the future? I mean, you will write the music for TNT with Ronnie, and you will work with Magnus the way you did with this album?
Well, it's an interesting thing because part of me feels like you have to be in the same room with somebody, and it is nice. Obviously there's something to be said for, being able to do that. But, today you can have a camera set up next to your computer and be in a chat situation like iChat or AOL Messenger or something like that. And you could actually have the camera there and be chatting in real time and actually be writing songs with somebody and be able to see them and look at them and spend as much time as you need, and it doesn't really cost anything because you're online and you have high-speed internet. So I think the capabilities of doing this are going to get better and better over time. I mean, those capabilities that I just talked about are available to people right now. So it definitely saves time and money and makes it possible to do work like that.
Is this something you will suggest for Ronnie in TNT as well?
I think so, yeah. I think it's a good way to work. It makes life a lot easier and cuts down on the plane flights, So I think, with this new TNT album that we're working on now, I actually came over and did do some writing with Ronnie in person, but we are doing some extra writing long distance, so and it's working out pretty well.
What is your main priority right now? Is it Starbreaker or is it TNT, or are both equally important to you? Well,
they're both equally important to me, but I'm definitely Starbreaker is not just a fly-by-night, sort of thing where I finished it and that's the end of it. I'm really putting a lot of energy into it, and I feel very proud of the album, and I think it's one of the best things I've ever done. So I'm excited to do more with these guys. So yeah, but I'm not putting TNT on the side or making it any less of a priority. But to be honest, I mean TNT doesn't work the entire year, so I do have time for another band.
Sure. Will there be any more Westworld albums?
I don't know right now. It's pretty much done, but not for any bad reasons. It's just, we did 4 albums, and very proud of them, super proud of them actually. And but everybody in Westworld is busy doing other things, and we're all very good friends. But we just, I think, unless something comes along that seems interesting for us, I think that we're going to put it aside.
Let's move back to the new Starbreaker album. When you have released, more Starbreaker albums, and you look back on the debut, which tracks do you think will stand out then as Starbreaker classics?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. I would say probably Lies, probably Days of Confusion, and maybe Cradle to the Grave, and maybe Save Yourself. I don't know. I mean, it's difficult for me because I think there are a lot of strong songs on this album. So I think actually that if this band goes forward and makes a lot of music in the future, I think that this whole album is going to be looked upon as kind of a classic, maybe.
And I guess when you play the new songs in front of an audience, you will see how they respond to the different tracks.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you'll definitely get the standouts there.
Have you made any plans for touring yet, or is it too early?
We are making plans. I mean, we were offered some festivals over the summer, but they were kind of getting in the way of my plans with TNT, so I decided to postpone the shows with Starbreaker until the fall. So it looks like I'm going to have a busy year because I think TNT is going to be playing in the fall as well.
Okay. I think you said you didn't know Magnus from before. Have you picked up his albums with Lost Tribe?
Yeah, well, I've since received some of those albums, and he's really fantastic. He's a very talented guy. He's very professional. I'm amazed at how quickly he works. He's got his own studio at home. He programs drums. The way we recorded this album was pretty incredible because we actually were able to, he sent me the tracks with fully programmed drums, pretty complicated drum programs as well. And I would take those, write what I had to write, take them to the studio, record my vocals on them, and then I sent everything to California, and basically from there we did bass and drums, sent them back to Magnus, and then he did the final guitars at the end. So it was kind of backwards. So he laid out the tracks so that we could, work on them, and then it kind of went around the world and then back over to him at the end. So it was kind of interesting how it was done. But, there was a couple of songs that I didn't really think were appropriate for the album, and I remember calling him at the end and saying, can you send me a couple of more that are a little bit more in the, like this or like that, and I made some explanations to him. And I mean, within 2 days, he had 2 tracks to me, totally, completely finished with beautiful drums, and it's just amazing, blew my mind.
Your drummer, John Macaluso, you worked with him on the Real Life Fantasies album with TNT. He's been involved with a lot of bands. Is he a permanent member of Starbreaker, or did you just hire him to do
No,
drums?
He's so permanent. He's so in love with this project. I mean, we both live in New York City, or not in New York City. I live in New York City, but he lives just outside New York City. And we talk all the time, and he's crazy about this project, and he wants to put 100% into it. He's very excited about it. That's the amazing thing about this, is it started off like, okay, let's just do this, and everybody was being hired, and it was, but in saying that, though, we all had this passion that we put into making this album. I think we were all excited to work with each other, and I put a lot into the songwriting after I got the tracks from Magnus, and I think that the result, that when everybody heard the vocals that I did, I think it kind of raised the bar, and everyone started looking at it, the whole thing, a little bit differently. And now it's evolved to where it is, and everyone's quite passionate about it.